Call the facilities meeting to order, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last month by Evelyn, seconded by John. Any discussion, changes? Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. And I think we'll start with the airport, and Ross, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may jump out of order a little bit, and I'll skip down to number 4, referral pending items, and turn the floor over to Mr. Skimmerhorn, who can provide us an update on the new restaurant out at the airport.
Sure. The restaurant's moving along well. It's obviously, if people have been out there, it is all framed up. Matter of fact, as we speak today, we're actually digging up for the water line to tap the water. We've got our grease trap there, our big tank. We're putting that in and then tying in our sewer. I have identified, which is the biggest question people have asked me, do you have an operator yet? October 1st is when I can announce who it is, and I can assure you that probably 85 to 90% of the people in this room will know the individual. The individual's been around for a little over 25 years in the business. We've all been to events or establishments where this person is served. I don't think anybody will be disappointed. I can tell you the food is fantastic. That was my biggest obstacle with this restaurant. Building it's the easy part for me. It was getting the right operator and the right fit for the location. It's been brought up, am I going to serve breakfast? Right now as it stands, and I've kind of said this in the past, we are definitely steering towards more of a lunch and dinner. Not to say we won't do breakfast. It's been mentioned that we were thinking about doing some brunches. What I find is, from being there 8.5 years now, I believe, a lot of our people that come in that want food service, usually it's around the 2-ish, the 3 o'clock-ish, and a lot of times those are the fly-ins, and there's reasons for that, because a lot of them are the fair weather flyers. The weather's better. It's not as good in the early morning, especially in the fall. We start getting low visibility and stuff like that. I feel that the evening, because the airport is so beautiful and it's such a beautiful asset to the area, will do very well with the evening crowd as well. As I said before, it's going to be a full-service restaurant. There is going to be a bar. We're getting the liquor license now. Not that that's important, but it does add to the fact that people like, when they go out for dinner, they like a glass of wine or a beverage or whatever. But it is going well. I anticipate more, because it's not the building part that's time-consuming right now. What's consuming my time, and it's been a lot of time, is designing the kitchen to meet Department of Health standards. And I'm not just doing the basic kitchen. I want it to be a state-of-the-art. I want it to be something that if someone walks in and says, wow, this is amazing. So I've been dealing with a lot of the local vendors for the equipment. Like, for example, Monahan, we just spoke to them the other day. They were visiting, just doing the hood installation for the exhaust and the air intake that has to be required to come back into the building and the kitchen. So I am anticipating more like a January opening. I'd like to say it'd be sooner, but I'm just being realistic. As far as improvements go, like I said in the past, we're expanding the parking lot per the approval. I met with Ross yesterday, relocating the fence. Some of the concerns for the county members was pushing the snow from that parking lot. We've made concessions where that's going to work very well for the county. So we've addressed that concern. I will be repaving all the surface area where you see the equipment out there, because obviously to dig up for water and sewer, and it's not as easy as just trying to directional bore underneath, because we have found there's FAA lines that are out there. Thank goodness we've had the help of an employee that used to work for Warren County for 30 years, that worked for me part-time, that worked at the airport. He came over on his own time and has helped identify areas, plus with Ross's help with some maps. It's a slow process, but we're careful not to tear things up as well. But I'm also in here, it was mentioned to me by a lot of the local people that base there, a lot of the people that visit the airport that aren't based at the airport for any reason. They mentioned an outdoor patio. And at first, I'm like, geez, where can I put a patio? Because you've got to worry about the prop wash, you've got to worry about the jet engines with the exhaust. So we found a real convenient spot. If you're staring at the building from, let's say from the airfield looking at it, if you were arriving in an airplane, it'd be the right-hand side, which we call the south side. I proposed a 20 by 30 stamp patio. I had discussions with Ross. I'll do a security fence across it. It won't be fully obstructed, but it will provide the safety and security that the airport requires. But that's, that's about where I'm at the moment. If anybody has questions, I can, answer them.
Any questions from anyone? Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item on the agenda, on page 2 of your packet, is a request for in-state travel for myself to attend the annual New York Aviation Management Association's Fall Conference. This year will be in Rochester, New York. The conference includes a Board of Directors meeting. I currently sit on the Board of Directors for NAMA, and it also includes the annual business meeting for the membership.
A motion to get it on the floor by Ron Conover, seconded by John Stroh. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so moved.
Okay, thank you. Next item on your agenda is a resolution request on page 6 of your packet. This is authorization for the chairman to execute an updated Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE program, to be approved by the county attorney. The FAA's Office of Civil Rights has published some new guidance regarding DBE programs. As a result, we're required to update our program. Our last update was in 2000. This will bring everything up to snuff with our DBE program. No major changes, very minor in nature. I've read through the program, no concerns.
Motion to get it on the floor by Evelyn, seconded by Mark. Discussion. Mark?
What's a DBE program?
A Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program. That's a program where we set goals for our contracts with FAA. When we put something out to bid, we have a hire contractor to do a major project. They're expected to use a certain percentage of their subcontractors or contractors are supposed to be disadvantaged business enterprises, like women-owned business enterprises or minority-owned business enterprises. There's a certain number of labor and staff and employees that are supposed to fit into that category.
John?
As part of the
Same concept, yeah. This is the FAA's approved program for the Office of Civil Rights. Yep.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Rich.
I need it for the rest, I need to get over here, but it's okay.
I think we have, amending the contract will come up in a couple, if you want to stay for that, but you don't have to stay.
There's no issue.
They might have it probably would be good if we had a question for you.
Okay, I'll stay, that's
If
fine.
you just give us
No
we shouldn't be much longer, right?
It'll be quick,
Okay.
I think.
Thank you. Okay, having no other questions on that, can we call the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, we'll skip ahead and we'll jump to page 8 of your packet. It's a resolution request to amend existing contract with Skimmerhorn Aviation. As Mr. Skimmerhorn alluded to earlier, this is to accommodate a new patio area for the restaurant. The leased area will increase from 3,600 square feet to 4,920 square feet to accommodate the new patio. The land lease rate remains the same. On page 9 of your packet is what I propose to be used as the new Schedule A for the amended lease agreement. The patio space area is highlighted in yellow, with the entire leased area outlined with a heavy dashed black line. Basically, it amounts to about a $400 annual increase in the rent, plus, of course, the percentage of the gross receipts like is included in the original lease agreement. Pages 10 through 12 of your packet is the resolution that authorized the original lease agreement with Mr. Skimmerhorn.
Okay, any questions? A motion to bring it on the floor by John, second by Evelyn.
Mr. Chairman.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this amendment to the lease agreement will require a public hearing under General Municipal Law 352. So, we're going to have to, as part of the resolution, we're going to have to schedule that public hearing. I think it's on 10 days' notice, so I think we may be able to get it on for the September meeting. I think, if I get you a notice of public hearing, can we meet the publication deadlines at this point in time?
I know we can get it in the Post-Star, I'm not sure about the News Enterprise, though. It won't be 10 days, as soon as I could get it in, it would be the 12th.
So it looks like this would have to be at your October meeting.
Okay, so it'd be handled in October meeting.
I don't believe there's any urgency, since we're looking at a January opening, I don't believe there's any urgency to get the public hearing scheduled, so I think that'll be perfectly acceptable.
And Evelyn, is that, adding that to amend the resolution is fine with you, and John, second? Okay.
So when you plan on constructing the patio?
Well, we're getting ready to do the stonework that's going on the building. It certainly would be beneficial to have it on, to have the stamped patio up to the building, because we actually bring the stone within a couple inches of the patio. With that said, I mean, we still have good weather ahead of us. I'm not gonna be fighting winter conditions, so I mean, if the earliest is, you're saying October, I mean, we'll hold off in that section of the building.
Okay. All right. No other further discussion? I'll call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, everyone.
Going back to, page 7 of your packet, we have a resolution request form, to transfer funds, some leftover money from our .2 codes, to move it into our .7 airport contracts code. The intent here is to, use this leftover money from those codes to add the gate next to the Skimmerhorn jet hangars into our access control system. Currently, that gate has a keypad with a PIN code for access through that gate. That gate does allow anyone with that code access onto the airfield. Theoretically, they could, go through that gate and drive right out onto our taxiways and runways. What we found is that a lot of the tenants have been getting access to this code and passing it on to other individuals for their use who really shouldn't have access through that gate. And what we would like to do is shuffle some money around to pay for adding access control hardware to that gate and incorporating it into our existing airport access control system.
Like a card swipe?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, motion to get it on the floor. By John, second. By Mark. Discussion? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay. Lastly, items for information for discussion or review. Just real briefly, I'd like to let the committee know that, the plans and planning for the Adirondack Balloon Festival are moving along nicely. We have our annual coordination meeting scheduled for this Thursday, September 3rd, here in the Municipal Center. I've also run a couple of reports comparing our premium parking permit sales from last year, September 1st, comparative to this year as of September 1st. Last year, we were at $2,630 in premium parking sales and tour bus sales. This year, we are at $3,280, puts us $650 ahead of where we were last year at this time. I think we're on track to meet our budget projections for $5,000 in premium parking sales. That's all I have for an update at this time.
Any questions for Ross? Rachel?
Ross, I know when we had the advisory meeting, or the last one, we talked a little bit about the grant applications for the fly-in, and I apologize, I walked in a little bit late, but I just wondered if there was any status update on that, or there seemed to be a lot of excitement around that possibility, and...
I have not heard back from AOPA regarding the fly-in. I believe that's what you're referring to, the AOP regional fly-in. The materials that they had put out there requesting a response indicated that a December timeframe is when they will make the announcement as to which airports will be selected for their fly-in.
Any other questions for Ross? Thank you, Ross.
Thanks.
Okay, buildings and grounds. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, first item is a resolution request for, to increase the capital project, and I think, Jeff, you have
These two requests are follow-up to the bond resolution from back in May authorizing the $16.5 million bond for the court expansion project. Originally, we had anticipated the bond funds to be available in mid-July, and talked to, Mike Swan, now they're projecting that they'll be available October first. So the first resolution is actually to increase the capital project to receive those funds when they become available on October first. The second resolution is to authorize the treasurer's office to advance funds now, ahead of ahead of October first. As you know, through the bond resolution, we authorized, the final phases of the Clark Patterson work. The total for all of their phases was almost $900,000 complete. That work is underway, and I need to encumber money to Clark Patterson with that. The other project work that's underway and will be proceeding quickly is the modification of the law library, to receive the new family court judge. We've got a bid out right now for demo work. That bid is due on Thursday. We'll be awarding a demo contract right away. The contractor is scheduled to be on site, doing the demo work in there on September 28th. And then immediately following that is when we start really the reconstruction and establishment of that temporary, family court space. So we have October, November, December to complete that work. So long story short is we are gonna need the funding, almost immediately, at least up to my estimate between now and when the bond funds are available, I need $1.2 million. Most of that work occurs over the winter, but in order to get Clark Patterson underway, I need to encumber that.
Mike, do you have anything to add?
No, that's exactly where we're at. We need to
And
have the
procedurally, that's right on target with what we need to do?
Yep, we need to, well, I'm going on Jeff's figures, I mean, I trust his figures as far as
Yeah,
what
yeah.
he needs, but, yeah, I mean, we have to have it budgeted before you can spend it, and we have to have a source of funding, which we have, so we need this to get,
Okay, he said that, you had some issue with bonding in New York City, and is that straightened out, or where are we at with the bonding
We
moving?
have a meeting, Paul and I have a ratings call on Friday with Standard & Poor's, which is the first step we have to do. Their anticipation is to sell the bonds the week of the 14th of September, and depending on how quickly our attorney can put together the closing documents, will determine how fast we can get our money.
The interest rate and the concern with the feds raising it, which was supposed in September sometime, are you concerned with that?
No, the rates are still holding real steady right now, and the indications I'm getting from our fiscal advisors are that there won't be any change until sometime near the end of the year or first part of next year. So,
Okay.
we're good. I mean, they've bounced around actually a little bit. They went down a little bit during the summer and it bounced back up a little bit, but we're still in good shape with that.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Just, Jeff or Mike, how much, between now and October are we talking about advancing? You have an order of magnitude? Not an exact number, but, I mean.
That's the second resolution, that up to 1.2 million. Almost 900 of it I need to encumber right away. It won't be spent out, but I need to put it in the project code. That's essentially, procedurally, that's what I need to do. And then we'll be incurring expenses on the temporary court space. Almost immediately we'll be encumbering to a demo contractor. We've got a lot of material bids to get out as well, and we'll be proceeding with the commodity purchases through this month and early October. So I think the 1.2 is safe to get us into October when the bond funds will be available. And then we'll be working with Mike and his staff on how what they need as far as our cash flow. You know, we've got probably $1.5 million worth of work to do between now and the spring, including all of that engineering work. And then in the spring, we've got the big project, the expansion project that'll be out to bid, and we'll be awarding that. That's about half of the bond. And then at a later date, you know, end of next year, we'll be moving into bidding for the interior renovations that'll be going on for phases 3, 4, and 5.
As far as that first bond that we're trying to do here in September, I've asked Jeff and he's starting to supply me with some figures so we have a good idea of exactly how much to borrow. I mean, I don't wanna leave you short, but I don't wanna be sitting on $1 million.
Right.
So we're trying to get that figure as close as we can.
As to what you will be expending,
But, yeah,
actually expending.
yeah, so I wanna know that so that we know how much to borrow in the bonds, 'cause we have up until the end of next week to give them an exact figure of what we need.
Mike, and I talked to the administrator now, the approval today out of this board will carry it to finance, so they'll be kept abreast of
Yes.
how we're proceeding, and the procedures are correct, et cetera, so you'll be getting it in finance also.
Yep.
Okay. Can we have a motion to bring, would proper to bring 3 and 4 together? Motion to bring them by Supervisor Conover, second by, John. Any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. And we have property smoking rules, you're up.
We've had Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we've had a little issue going on concerning, smoking on campus. The county rules, and they're very brief, but county rules right now say that smoking and tobacco use is prohibited inside all county buildings, which I think everybody's familiar with, and within 50 feet of the county buildings. And then it also says cigarette butts shall be properly disposed of in areas where smoking is permitted, but basically smoking is permitted anywhere that's 50 feet beyond the building, and the Buildings and Grounds Department has put cigarette butt containers in those various locations. What is happening, however, is that I'm getting complaints that cigarette butts are still being thrown on the ground beyond that 50-foot area in areas where these containers are not, because like out at the gazebo area and stuff, there's not there. I'm also getting complaints that like the gazebo's 50 feet away, and so people are smoking over in that area, and then other people want to have lunch, and so we're having some conflicts going on there. And what has come up is that the suggestion has been made to me that why don't we just designate smoking areas around the campus to try to eliminate some of the conflicts. And so what I would propose, the first step is I wanted to see what the supervisor's thoughts would be on it. If you think the idea of designating specific smoking areas is a good thing, then what I would propose is to work with Frank, come up with some areas, and then submit them to for your approval at the next committee meeting. Or the other option would be just to simply leave the policy as it is and do our best to enforce it. But it's really, like I say, it's beyond the 50 feet that's caused the issue. And so I just wanted to bring it to your attention and see if there was some interest in basically designating smoking areas.
Frank, you want to chime in?
I guess it raises a question with me is if you designate a smoking area, are we providing shelter for that area, or like the pavilion is considered a county building, so there really isn't supposed to be smoking under the county pavilion. I don't know. Personally, I think no matter how many areas you designate, somebody will be smoking in other areas. It does raise some concerns. We had somebody flipped a cigarette butt into the wood chips out in front of the courts, and we had a small fire. This is about a month ago, I guess. But I don't know how you patrol it or how you police it.
So that's my question, who polices it, and there's probably no one. Anyone else have anything to add or delete?
I would ban it on the entire campus, it's up to me.
How would it be permissible to start with some more signage? Would that help?
We can certainly try it. We've put lawn furniture out in this area for smokers, as well as other areas for non-smokers. We can put signs on pedestals and designate those areas as smoking areas and see if it helps. I think the cigarette butt issue is more people getting out of their cars, throw the butt wherever they are, and I don't know how you're going to control that.
What would be the consensus of the committee? Would anyone want to help out here? Mark?
I would ban it at the gazebo.
Pardon?
I would immediately ban it at the gazebo so people are eating lunch. They don't have to, cigarette
Well,
butts.
theoretically, it is banned at the
Is
gazebo.
there signage out there?
Yeah.
So we just violated that.
John?
What do you think
thinking about for potential sites where it would be allowed. Like I said, I think the easiest solution is painted on citizens. All the school campuses we have at the towns, the SUNY Adirondack, we painted on the campus. And that solves those problems. Well, you still have the people that speak in the cars, but it minimizes.
I mean, I have,
Hopefully you're sending a message that these people ought to quit smoking cigarettes.
right. I'm not a smoker, so I'm all for it, but
No,
I
yeah.
just,
Well, I used to
I know
kind
it,
of relate to that, but
at Glens Falls Hospital, they banned it on their campus, but now there's a small pavilion, and I'm not sure if it's on hospital property or not, but that's where everyone goes. I guess one school of thought is if you provide an area, provide a shelter, then maybe people will go there to smoke, and they won't go other areas. But, again, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna stop the person who's getting out of the car over in Probation Lot from flipping their cigarette wherever they get out of the car.
Mark?
I support Supervisor Stroud in this, banning it on campus.
Okay, you wanna put a motion on the floor to ban it on the campus?
I'll second it.
First, motion by Supervisor Strauss, seconded by Supervisor Westcott. Discussion. Evelyn?
I don't think banning on, I mean, we can try to ban it on campus, but I don't think it's going to be exceptionally successful. I don't think we're gonna stop people who are smoking their cars in here from flipping the cigarette butts out, even if it is banned on the campus. And I think logistically, it might pose a little bit of a problem. Before I said for certain if I support it or not, I'd like to know exactly how we plan on doing that, because if you're gonna ban it on the campus, we have employees here who, we had that whole issue with smoke breaks not too long ago, and they figured out, okay, 15 minutes in the morning, are they hopping in their car, leaving campus, or, is it still on time? I'm not sure exactly how that would work out. I'd like to see a more detailed plan before we went much further.
Yeah?
The thing I would respond to that, Evelyn, is that I venture to say that many other municipalities have banned it on their municipal building campuses. I know the town has, I know the schools have, I know other municipalities have. So I mean, we're not breaking ice here. It's something that is, if you're not doing it this year, you're probably gonna do it next year. It's just a matter of when you're gonna do it. And I say, let's do it now.
I would just comment that one of the concerns with a total ban is you end up with the crowds out on the sidewalk. And, we discussed that at the park, at the Charles Harwood Park. We're kind of cautious about, where smokers are gonna go find a place to smoke. So they're either gonna sit in their car, but in the middle of the summer, they're gonna sit in their hot car or they're gonna have their AC on, sitting there, or they're gonna go out to the edge of the road where they're off county property. I think, I've been by Angio over by the airport, and you always see employees out at the edge of the road, and they're out there smoking. Because it was almost, you could tell the day that they banned smoking on campus there, on their property. So that would be one of my concerns, is just, if we ban it, smokers are still gonna smoke, they're either gonna sit in their car, or they're gonna go out to the sidewalks. And I think that could be a problem as well.
John?
Well, what do you think the taxpayer is gonna feel if we spend $5,000 for a pavilion to enable people to smoke cigarettes? I mean, that's just, so, it's not gonna fly well. So, if you're talking about a pavilion to keep these smokers out of the rain and have a place for the smokers to go, and you're gonna spend taxpayer money for that, when, like I said, you're probably gonna end up banning it on campus sooner or later anyway, just the way things are going.
Well, I don't want, Frank, I think you're reluctant to do shelters because they become part of the campus, and they're not supposed to smoke in anything that's part of the campus. But what I've heard is we do have designation of it's gotta be past 50 feet of the building. I mean, I'm good with keeping it that way, and the mechanism of policing, I think, is difficult, addressing that, but, my preference is to keep it to 50 feet, not invest in any other structures, and just try to enforce it, at present, rather than just, forcing people off campus, because I think that opens up another Pandora's box of issues.
I'm just saying, I'm hoping you're forcing them to give up cigarettes.
And I understand that, and I... Paul?
If, just to be sure that we have clarity though, if that's the desire of the committee, I think you're operating under the assumption that the gazebo is a prohibited smoking area. I'm not so convinced that anybody knows that or necessarily believes that. So I think, at bare minimum, I would suggest that if your intent is to keep them out of there and 50 feet around there, that we actually put that in this non-smoking policy, that it is, that a non-smoking area is the gazebo, because then that'll give us teeth to go after anybody that's smoking there or within 50 feet around there.
Yeah, it's, we had a picnic table over in back of the HSB building that was 50 feet away from the building. And we ended up putting another picnic table over there, one for smokers, one for non-smokers. I mean, it's, because people do like to go out there and have their lunch, but they don't wanna be selling cigarettes, so.
Okay, Rachel, you had your hand up first?
Well, I just had two questions. One, probably an easier answer in terms of what are we doing, or are we providing any type of programs to our employees now, or services that are free from the state about quitting, or obviously the dangers of smoking is all over the internet and TV, but I know there's a lot of programs that we could offer, or, you know, perhaps through human resources, or even some literature that we could put about, whether it be on our webpage or through the county building. So that, I was just wondering what we've done to date. Obviously, we know it's incredibly addictive and harmful for your health, but recognizing that, you know, are we kind of going above and beyond here to help those employees quit smoking? And also, we talk about enforcement. You know, I have my college students research silly laws all the time, because there's all these laws across the United States that are not enforced, that are outdated, and I'm not suggesting this is silly. What I am saying, though, is, you know, what's the bite to it? You know, if somebody's violating a particular policy here, what are we doing to hold that accountable for those people that want to enjoy lunch without smokers, or for those smokers that want to take their smoke break? I mean, where are we, what are we doing about it?
Well, if an employee violates a policy, we do have the ability to discipline. The problem is finding out who these people are, number one, and then number two is having clarity, as I mentioned, if the intent is like, this gazebo area seems to be one of the issues. So if we had it very black and white and clear, they can't smoke over there, then you see an employee with a cigarette, then it's just a matter of taking disciplinary action against that employee.
And you're saying it's not black and white right
Right.
now? So maybe before we jump to the next level, being able to clearly identify,
Right.
I don't know, 50, it seems like maybe some signage, and the 50 feet seems a little...
The other issue is, I don't really believe that our problem smokers are employees. I think the complaints are coming from public that comes in.
Oh, right.
You know, not to single anybody out, but if you're walking into the HSB building and you have a cigarette, you're at the building, and it goes wherever you have it, you know, it's,
Mark?
That's all the more reason why I think a smoke-free campus is the way to go. When you go to a facility that's a smoke-free campus, it's just, that's the policy. Everybody's aware of it when you walk on to the campus. So I support John in his motion. And I think as an interim step, Paul, I think your idea is great. Make it known to the employees the gazebo is off limits to smoking before we take any further action.
John?
Well, when you enter the school, when you enter the college campus, when you enter their signage, this is a smoke-free campus. I don't believe we have that signage right now, so people are gonna assume that it's a smoke campus. Unless there's signage saying it's a smoke-free campus, you're going to have the outsiders coming in and smoking, because we haven't advertised otherwise.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor, and Ron?
I just have a question. I was wondering, do the people we have incarcerated, are they allowed to smoke? Do they have smoking breaks in that public building? Do we know?
I can call the sheriff right now. You want me to check?
I'm just curious. be a county facility as well.
It's possible to do commentary, but I can't be 100% sure. I'd
Yeah.
be pretty sure.
Is that something is it important to know that?
I'll just step out and call Sean, because I wonder if there's,
I'm
if
just,
there's regulations that they follow.
I'm just,
There may be an issue at Westmount as well for that, because those folks, that's their residence.
well, I just want the, this fully thought through. I understand the motion, and generally I'm sympathetic to the motion. I just wanna make sure that this is being applied. If we do this, this is gonna be applied throughout.
Rachel?
I just also think that if we make this policy, we need to be prepared for that enforcement piece of it. You know, how are we going to provide, you know, what happens if a member of the public, or you catch somebody, or a security officer, whatever. I mean, I think you have to have some type of proof to the pudding, or whatever what's the saying? Oh my goodness.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the thought occurs to me that, you know, I certainly didn't walk in today thinking we would go smoke-free on the campus today. Not that it's a bad idea, but my only thought is that as I start to think things through here after hearing the question of the sheriff, and then I'm thinking of Westmount, and Countryside popped into my head, and then also the laws and the union contracts and everything else, it might be a good idea, if we do want to pursue this, maybe we should just take a meeting, you know, if you wouldn't mind, my recommendation might be to roll it over a meeting just to get all of these things answered, and then come back and say, yeah, we can do it, and here's the exceptions you have to make, or something like that, just so that, you know, we don't end up moving ahead on something and then have to, like, backtrack or something.
Jim?
Yeah, with the smoke-free campus thing, I know my wife went through quitting smoking. It was like horrendous for her to do it. And I'm all in favor of people quitting, but if we do this, should we give the people who smoke a little bit of time to sort of go through, you know, like 3 months or something, so they can, you know, if you say tomorrow you can't smoke here, then they have to, it'll be tough. If we give them like 3 months to sort of go on a program, if they want to, it will help alleviate some of the stuff. Just an idea.
John?
I think Jim's suggestion's a good one, and I also think that instead of, you know, we have a healthy employee program or something of a title that, you know, helping these people to terminate their smoking habit could be part of the program, and it could happen, you know,
A little time.
6 months or so down the line.
I do know that the newsletter that HR sends out has had smoking, information in it, so it is offered.
There's other, besides the newsletter, which is good, there's
Yeah.
other things as well we could be doing or something.
We do have posters in the building too that tell you not to smoke and what happens when you stop and stuff.
I would feel a lot more comfortable with the motion and supporting the motion if we could just pause here and do our homework with Westmount, do our homework at the other county facilities, and so that we know exactly what we're doing, what we're impacting.
Can we have Jeff chime in with the
I
information?
left messages with, Sean and Bud and,
Okay.
Let me-
Would it be of interest to see if the committee wants to vote on it? Because then we can accumulate information or do you think
I'd
that's?
like to change my motion, let's investigate making the campus a smoke-free campus.
Okay.
So let's make that an initiative, and have some hearings and some investigation and some thoughts go in on that, but I think we're gonna need to move in that direction. So,
Okay, so do we have a withdrawing of your original motion, and that's your new, to get on the floor?
investigating going into a smoke-free campus.
Okay. And discussion? Rachel?
I would just like to know, you know, in this day and age, it's so easy to send out an email. Can you just solicit some feedback from the county, from our employees? And, I mean, I can certainly do it to people in Queensbury and the public, but I'd like to know, you know, what do they think, what's some of that feedback, you know, how can we best help make this move to a smoke-free campus? And, you know, how can we as a board, as a community, help, with people becoming healthier, here in Warren County?
You can send out an email and have that feedback for your next committee meeting.
Mr. Treasurer, you have something?
I was just gonna say, tobacco is considered contraband in the jail, so I'm gonna assume that there's a no smoking if you can't have tobacco in the jail, then you're not gonna smoke, right?
Kinda hard to,
Okay, so we have motion on the floor. We have any other discussion? Frank?
We look into banning soda and coffee too.
Look at excuse my hearing.
Can we look into banning soda and coffee too, other than aspartame?
Okay, that would be another meeting that that the administrator would bring to us, hopefully in 2016. Okay, so let's call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we'll do an investigation. All right. What do you wanna go on to now?
Well, I can do the Supreme Court Library update. Our temporary library is up and running in the HSB building. We have some temporary signs on the doors to try to keep the concerns that some employees had about passing through into other areas, but I'm waiting on quotes for the doors for fob readers, and then eventually I'll put a reader on both of the employee doors that allow employees to pass through, but no one would be able to go out into the other areas. So hopefully by the next meeting I'll have those and have them installed. The existing or the original library is my crew has done what demolition we can do. As of today, we'll be done with what we can do in there. The shelving has all been removed, the lighting has been removed, temporary lighting has been installed. The ceiling they're working on today, the metal ceiling. So everything is out of there that we can do. And then the only other thing I had was, I have had, I believe, 3 or possibly 4 demo contractors that have done a walkthrough, so, that bid opens next week, I think. Demo bid is, Thursday. This week.
Thursday of next week? Or this Thursday?
So there was some interest there, so, hopefully we'll get a good.
Okay. Any questions on, the progress of the courts and, eventually also Clark Patterson is gonna come, and kind of bring us up to snuff with everything they've collected information-wise, how they're proceeding, maybe a rendering, talk about all the intricacies of, from security to furniture, et cetera, and just give us a little overall conceptual view of what they've done as far as their diligence, and that should be coming.
We can ask them to come in and give updates anytime the committee would like. Obviously, they're finalizing the design on the temporary court space that we've got to get underway, and that would be the near-term target. And then final design work for the court expansion, for the addition onto the north side of the building. That design work is continuing now, and actually has quite a bit of it accomplished already. They're moving quite fast. So I would say we can certainly give an update to committee next month. That would be right on the cusp of us starting the demo and starting the reconstruction of the temporary court space. Or we can wait until that's underway and then take a little bit more time to talk about it.
I think next month would be good, because there was a lot of things that have been decided and ready for presentation to show how they arrived at their decisions, and I told them that I would appreciate, like Maria and the architect and et cetera, how she proceeded. That the committee would like that to get an update.
I will tell the committee there have been some modifications of that floor plan for the temporary for the temporary court space, and also the final DA space. As you recall, much of the work that we're doing as part of the temporary court space is work that will benefit final DA space. So we've had quite a bit of conversations with both the court staff and also the DA and her staff to make sure that we're doing this as efficiently as possible. There have been some changes, but no significant changes from the last floor plans that I showed the committee a couple months ago.
Okay,
I'll schedule an update.
And the OCA body that was to meet to give us the approval, was that in the email that, within the last week. That, the OCA body, that the group that's supposed to move and, meet and approve, that we were hoping they would eventually do that, that has happened?
Not that I have heard, no.
No?
The last approval we got was from Department of Corrections,
Okay.
and they approved the plan, and they had a pretty quick turnaround with very little comments, so.
That's the one I think I sent out that you may be
That's
thinking of?
probably it,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we're still waiting for the actual OCA board to meet and,
Yes.
and approve it. Okay. All right, and municipal center signage?
Yes, and I got a call from Sheriff York, and inmates are not allowed to smoke, and his staff, corrections and sheriff staff are the same as everyone else as far as moving outside away from the building. So the inmates are not an issue.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, Rob.
That's all right.
I was,
No, no, you were, just, I don't expect a response, but just a reminder that, the sidewalk coming in on the west side of the building isn't getting any better. And, I would hope that either as part of or in coordination with the court improvement, we're going to do something about the sidewalk. The new entrance may lower its emphasis as a major access. We might actually be able to reduce the amount of concrete there, but I would hope that we,
address that.
that would be part of, the improvements that would be taking place, if not part of the court, at least in conjunction with the court.
Yes, I think we've discussed that with, and moving forward, how we're gonna approach that.
Yes, and, it will be incorporated. It'll be in the later stages of the project though, frankly, so, but I have talked to that with Clark Patterson. Okay. Okay, the next thing I wanted to update the committee on was the, new signage plan. I have the last two fobs to give to elected officials, but this is part of the, initiative to do the additional security, activate the fobs on all of the doors on this building except for the court entrance, the probation entrance, and the DMV entrance where the security desk is now. So as part of that, what we wanna do is clarify the signage, around the campus. And maybe better to start with this one. That's the front entrance off of Route 9. And you'll see what I'm proposing. I can read these to you, I apologize, they're a little small, but the one on the left, as you come in, there'd be a sign pointing to the left that says court, jail, probation, sheriff. That's it. On the other one, it'd say DMV, social services, county offices. And part of the problem right now is we have those large signs with virtually every department, so sometimes you'll see a car stopped reading the signs. So trying to simplify it, clarify it, get people moving in the direction they need to go. As you come, down the ring road, this is already designated employee parking, but I wanna change the signage, to make it I think we have Adirondack style signs there now, so I wanna make it a little more obvious. As you come around by DMV and, social services, or human services building, we'll have two sets of signs. These will be double-sided too. All of these signs will be, visible from both directions, but as you come around the ring road between the two buildings, it'll say county clerk, county attorney, DMV, public health, tourism, treasurer, WIC. And that'll point you to the left to go into that parking lot. To the right, it'll say building codes, board of elections, office for the aging, purchasing, social services. And the same on these for anyone coming from the, Glen Lake Road entrance. On this, what we call the nurses, entrance here, employee parking only. Again, we'll have similar signs like on the Route 9 entrance, down here at this intersection, where they can go, if they come off of Glen Lake Road, they can go straight for court, jail, probation, sheriff, or they can go left for DMV, social services, county offices. As you go back by the fuel farm, these are all employee parking only, employee parking only. And let me go back up to this one. Here we have probation, directing them into this parking area. Here we have county court, family court, Supreme Court, and then we have jail and sheriff. So we tried to simplify. You'll notice there's one law here that I'm still kind of working on, and part of what Supervisor Conover brought up with the overall campus modifications as part of the court expansion project. We've already had some discussions about, when we add this building on here to the courts, this ring road's gonna have to shift over a little bit. And we're actually working with, Judge Krogman and his staff and the other court staff on, their comfort level for how close that ring road is to the building. So that actually might have to move a little ways away from the building. Part of our concern is parking during the court project, and we're gonna lose all of this parking eventually once the construction starts. This will really be, probably contractor staging area over here during the construction, as well as some staging here. And what we wanna do as part of the court expansion is eventually extend this parking lot to incorporate, almost all the rest of that lawn area. And then down here, we can extend it closer to that center area as well. One of the other concepts that I think will work well, and maybe we wanna even proceed more quickly on that, is right now this lot here is also the park and ride. And that's where you'll see people come in, drop their car, and then they commute. One of the concepts would be to put parking ride between the Ring Road and Route 9. We have a large lawn area there, and maybe this is a little bit better. The concept would be to have a one-way park and ride where they drive in, there'd be a long lot with maybe slant parking, one way, and then they could one way out on the other side. And maybe create a lot over there, that would free up additional parking that we think we need for the courts, with the additional court coming in, and also the loss of the other parking areas due to the building expansion. So that's something that we're trying to work into the court expansion plan, that'll impact that as well. So our thought is to go ahead and start producing these signs. We try to make them more typical to public parking areas, so that people can recognize, okay, that's where I need to go to park. And we wanna start producing those signs so that we can get them installed, and then the minute we get those installed, then we'll activate the lock systems on the doors, so that everyone will be directed to the parking lot they need to go to.
John?
I like your idea of the park and ride in and out, because someday I'd like to see a connection to the bike trail, or bike trails. And, people come off, visitors to the area, and they know we have bike trails, but where's the parking? Well, that's an excellent place right off of Exit 20, to say, Warren County, Rush Pond, or other trail systems that we have parking area. And if we could, someday, and I know we're doing, an Exit 18 corridor study, so maybe a combination of, bicycle traffic to make this connection to the, bike trail would be part of it, but that park and ride, and also an area for parking for people that wanna use the bike trails, might not be a bad idea, just something to keep in mind. I know right now it's just kind of out there, but I like the idea of the park and ride.
Rachel?
So, that current signage that's there when you pull into the municipal center, will you be removing that, or these signs are gonna be in addition to it? Here's my question why. I hear from a lot of people that we make our meeting times difficult for the public to attend to, and we certainly try to be creative, and we have the YouTube and the TV and all these other ways for people, our minutes to stay informed. But I don't see anything on there for the Board of Supervisors, or if the public are, they wanna come to our meetings, or it's already kind of like a maze when you're walking up through here, and I often hear people say, I'm trying to go to the meeting, where is it? Or, I know we do our best, but I'm not seeing where we would direct the public, for that purpose, unless I missed it.
No, I think I missed it, I forgot the board. So, we would, maybe we put a thing here for public meetings or something, we could do that, or we could list, Board of Supervisors on this sign, or maybe even just put public meetings, or board meetings.
Public entrance.
Board meeting, yeah.
Cause that's gonna be,
You need
Well-
some clarity on that, I agree with Supervisor Sieber, because we get a lot of questions whenever anybody comes in, and the other entity you missed was county administration. So I think that, those are two areas, and I think we need to do more than just Board of Supervisors. I think it has to emphasize the meeting somehow, because that's what people are always looking for.
And then just to be a little particular about it, I mean, the green, I could talk about this after, but it's all Adirondack, you know, we talk about being in the Adirondack. Is that the color? Is that what the signs are gonna look like?
It's pretty close. I mean, the software we use is not an exact match, but again, I tried to use the typical colors that people, when they come from all over, and we have tourists here or whatever else, they're gonna recognize. And that green
Yeah.
E for parking is.
Well, I know that's standard, but so that big sign, is that coming down or is that staying?
That would be my thought, would be to take it down. I don't, because again, there's all this sign clutter there, and if that's still there, they might
Right.
ignore the more abbreviated ones.
We're gonna stop
Mike,
and look at.
did you have something?
Oh, I just, after seeing multitudes of people, because my office used to look right out on that, stopping there at those signs, the traffic jams that are caused, I almost got hit there 2 weeks ago trying to get out on my motorcycle. I understand we gotta put a lot of stuff there, but if we could just make it very simple, like saying, all public entrances one way, jail the other way, and then when you get around to the parking lot, make that where you divide it a little bit better. Just as simple as possible, coming off of that road, to direct people, either you're going to the jail, to the courts, or you're going to public entrance to the office building. You know, I don't know what the exact verbiage, but just to make it so that when somebody's pulling in, they don't have to stop their car and try to figure out which sign they gotta follow. Because if you make that touch sign too much on there, you got the same problem we have right now.
Okay. Mark?
I think this does that. I would just address Rachel's and Paul's concern on that, so, you know, public meetings go right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, that this doesn't point to a more complicated issue, which is, for example, the public's coming to our board meetings, what entrance do you want them to use?
Well, they
What's
would-
that? DMV. Am I hearing DMV? DMV. So really what you need to do, it seems to me, is you need to take a look at where we're going to be in terms of this entryway system. And you really need to, I think, rethink where your employee parking is as opposed to your customer parking. I think it's, for example, there may be more opportunities for additional parking on the east side of the building, on the east side of the perimeter road as an example, than there is, and maybe some of the employee parking needs to be shifted and the customer parking, because maybe the customer parking for the people, taxpayers who we're trying to serve is gonna be insufficient in front of that main entryway now. And so I think that some real thought needs to be given to the whole parking program and where people are going to park and what their walking distances are going to be. Because if this is gonna be the main entry, and I have no doubt that it will be, then really the convenient public parking you have is right there on the lower right-hand corner inside the perimeter road. That's the totality of your public parking.
Talking about this one, Ron, or?
No, that one, right there. That's the totality of your public parking in front of your front door and on that side of the perimeter road. So maybe the parking, what we flipped, did we flip?
Yeah, I moved it just.
So maybe, you see the area over there you call employee parking now? I mean, I'm just saying that I think some thought needs to be given to where our customers, the taxpayers, are going to find parking to go into this new entryway. That's all, that's my own.
This area right now is already employee parking only.
Right.
Okay. A while back, when this building was constructed, there was a guidance put out that employees are supposed to park outside this, there's a line in the road or on the pavement. So really, employees are parking here, employees are parking here, and then this is public parking, this is public parking. The area over here, this is already nurses' cars only, that's the nurses' fleet. This is really, I guess some public comes in here now, and certainly Board of Supervisors, we call this the Board of Supervisors lot, because most of you use that, or you come in the front. You'll still be able to use that, of course, but I think, unless there's a member of the public that is used to coming to this building all the time to see the county attorney or something else, there's probably very few, people that park in here. We do have people that come in here and park for probation, and then scoot around this way, because those are the ones that aren't supposed to be driving. So they don't park over in front of the probation offices, they park over here and they come around.
I think the point is, without a fob, the only access is really going to be at DMV. And so eventually, that's where the customer's going to show up, is right there. And the only parking that's right off the front door is the parking lot right there. Now, there is parking on the other side of the perimeter road, that's true. And if there's available, you have some public parking perhaps for the employee parking. All I'm saying is I'm not looking to design it today or thinking. I just think some thought needs to be given to how much parking we're gonna end up with and where our customers are gonna park. That's all I'm saying.
I can
Mr. Chairman, just to echo Supervisor Conover's remarks, one of the concerns I would have is the same, that while it doesn't happen often, when we do have the public turn out for a large meeting, a board meeting, or even a committee meeting during the day, if you have, especially during the daytime, if you have a significant number of people showing up here for a meeting, and you have DMV, and you have other business going on, I am concerned that that parking lot in front of DMV will not be big enough. And, you know, I think that we should look at where else it can be very easy for the public to get into our building so they don't have too far to walk. And I would think, too, that as part of this, we would make sure it's understood that certain parking areas are public only, so that the employees don't park there.
See, the site plan, when you expand the court, I'm becoming more like a planner, I don't want to do that, but when you expand the court, you're going to be taking some parking. But that's not just court parking, because I see a lot of people, even some supervisors, that find that convenient parking to come into the employees, if you will, to come into the west entryway of the building, so that's going to get displaced somewhere. I think what's going to happen is that's going to fill up the employee parking that much more, and provide fewer parking spaces for our customers when they come. And I think that rather than do the addition and then have the problem, it would seem to me that we should give some thought to how much parking we're losing, who's using it, where we're going to, like you're doing on the north end, you're giving some thought to bumping out the perimeter road. Maybe you need to bump it out a lot. Maybe you don't want to bump it out a little bit. Maybe there's opportunity to bump it out even further. If you're going to move it, right? And then you're going to create more convenient parking on the inside of the perimeter road, perhaps, to replace the parking that you've lost, as opposed to trying to develop parking later on the other side of the perimeter road, which, so when you go to move it, perhaps, you know, you move it, and you see over there as you get toward, because you start to get toward, is that the sheriff over there?
Up here is.
Yeah, so you know, you see over here on the other side of his access point, do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, we wouldn't, well, the concept right now, and Clark Patterson is working on exactly what you're talking about, doing the space study on the parking and trying to do estimates. I mean, they're architects, and that's kind of what they do. The concept right now, though, is, okay, we're gonna lose this lot with the expansion. This lot here is really underutilized completely, so this will be redeveloped and expanded for parking as well as part of the project. And there's really, if you drive around this side, there's really I'm actually surprised there's this many cars sitting in there in this photo. But this is often about as full as that lot gets. So that would provide additional court space parking and probation parking. And then this will be expanded. The only one that we were talking about putting outside the ring was that concept of moving a park and ride, to clarify that, so you're not mixing the park and ride in with employee or public parking. But I understand your concept, and I think you're right in that this would be the next logical lot to designate as public parking for the DMV and county offices. You know, and then we could put signage here that directs them, all right, if you park here, you gotta come this way to get in. You're not, so that people aren't coming here. The problem I would see would be that this lot is often full, and it's employee parking now, so we gotta shift those employees somewhere.
Well, that's why I'm saying that I think some thought should be given to employee parking, because I think that would open up more convenient spaces for our customers, which I think should be the priority here. And I think that if that means that we need to be thinking about parking it, or being told to park at a different location on the campus, then that's just the way it's gonna have to be, because the parking that we're presently using is now going to be needed for the people that are coming here to do business. That's my only point.
Keeping in mind, I think the presentation today was signage and trying to get people where they're going to go. We've had some growth issues where we've brought over the Human Services building. We've had some security issues where we're going to FOBs and trying to redirect people to the motor vehicle entrance. We have expansion going on the north end with the county courts, and what's gonna disrupt parking. And we have a litany of issues, whether it's the public coming to meetings, park and ride people, employees, and just general usage of our different divisions. So there's quite a bit to talk to. I think Jeff brought before us today some directional value in trying to get those people to those spots. And it sounds like the discussion is a lot more complicated than that, and it should be a lot more comprehensive. I would suggest that Jeff has his plate full right now with what we're doing with the court expansion, et cetera, but certainly with all of the dialogue that's come before us today, this should be looked at in maybe a little bit more comprehensive manner, and we should visit it over a period of time. And maybe you map out a strategy that will work for all the things that were mentioned today, because there was quite a few. Would that work for you?
Well, the reason that we identified this was necessary initially was back in the spring or over the winter, when we were moving to activate the fob locks, and it was really the security concern. So initially when I looked at this, it wasn't to change parking it was really just to clarify the signage to make it easier to find where they needed to go. So if we want to put this on hold and study it more, what that means is I'm going to have to we don't want to activate those fobs and have people going around knocking on doors around the building. And that's really what I was trying to avoid with this signage, was simplify the signage, use very clear, discernible parking signs that the public will come in and they'll be able to go directly to the parking they need. So that would be my only concern, would be that, with the exception of a couple more supervisor fobs to hand out, we're really ready to activate those locks, and we're on hold pending these clarified signs, because we don't want to activate the locks and to have a lot of people bobbing up.
But Jeff, and then I'll shut up. I promise. We have are about to authorize $4,700 about building a storage facility, a garage on this campus. We're building a brand new court expansion project. I mean, for just one example, that parking lot right there does not work well. It's a clumsy lot as it is. So that if you're a customer, I'm just thinking like a customer now. I come in and I want to go into DMV, but that lot's full. I can't even go to the other lot. There's no lane, they're not connected. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like I pull into a parking lot. I've got to go back out to the perimeter road, right? I've got to drive all the way around. That's not even an entryway. I've got to drive all the way to the front entrance again. The thinking on the campus, its circulation and its parking is part and parcel of everything we're doing, including the court expansion project. I would think that we would have to rethink, at least at a minimum, the parking on this one lot and our employee parking generally. I do believe that, because we are now channeling all the visitors to one door, right? I mean, that's the thinking, unless you come down and let them in, like somebody's coming into the attorney's office, another attorney, and you say, well, I'll be there at 12, and somebody lets them in. So I think that, some of this needs to be thought about now as we move forward. Otherwise, we're going to build an addition, and we're going to be thinking about another building on campus, and what are we going to do? And some discussion should also be had with our maintenance crews in terms of some of these lots are easier to plow than others, right? So some thought, there may be some opportunities in terms of the design of some of these parking areas to achieve more parking. Without-
So if we can get to the signage, we've got bad parking, we're doing a big project, everything costs money, there's design, so what do we wanna do? Do we wanna design, spend more money, and correct what we know we're identifying now, sooner than later? What is the purview? I mean, I'm in agreement with everything you stated, but we're having trouble paving our roads. Now we're talking about parking around our facility, and all of it is, we have to hire engineers to design it, and then we have to build it, which costs money, and we have the treasurer here, so how do we wanna proceed? 'Cause to me, the 16 million court expansion is quite a bit to spend while I sit in this chair, and if we wanna continue on, we've gone from signs to a redesign, I think that's a lot of money we're talking about, and what is the timetable that the committee wants? Mr. Treasurer?
I guess I'll interject here a little bit, as who sits in this building, I would like to see us get the fob system working as soon as possible. I've been a proponent of that since the beginning. And to get to that, I think we do need to have these signs up to direct the people in the right direction. Now, I've worked around that DMV entrance for 25 years, okay? Very rarely is there a time when you can't find a place to park in that DMV lot to get in. Now, I agree that if we have a large meeting up here or something, it's gonna get tight. Normal business operations, there's not a problem with people finding places to park in that DMV lot. And that's where the majority of the people that are looking for county offices come into the building. Anyway, right now, is the DMV. So I would ask that we move forward with the signage and get the fob system working as soon as we can.
Mark?
And go ahead, and I agree with you, Ron, that the parking situation does need to be evaluated as we go forward and the expansion is done, how you wanna spend that money and.
I think there are minor things that can be done that can make the parking much more efficient. There's programming that can be done with our employees to free up parking spaces. I don't think the stuff takes a lot of money necessarily. We also have a highway department that, assuming the paver works, can still lay down some macadam so we can.
All right, that's some direction, I like that. John?
I think Jeff's proposal is the right way to go. It is an improvement. I mean, Rachel and Paul suggested additions to it, but the concept, I think, is good. And I think it's needed. And we make our own signs, right?
Make our own signs, we place our own signs, I can move them every day.
Yeah. Now,
Every day I'm
these
directing.
signs, what size will it be? I mean, just look at a man of my age.
Can't we replace those? I think the concept was 18 by 24, some of them are a little bit longer. We can go bigger, we can make them Reader's Digest.
Well, keep in mind the elderly.
Okay.
We can talk about this all day, so we're gonna cut.
I'm not gonna talk anymore, I'd like to move it forward, addressing Rachel and Paul's on the one sign that directs where to go for the county administrator's office and the public where they should go.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready to move forward with this, I'll put that as a motion for Bob and the signs.
Rachel?
I have to leave. I just want to put it on the record that I agree with Mike. Keep it simple. That's not a concept that I employ very often, and I think he has a great point. Jail, public, and then break down your signs, because it is just an accident waiting to happen. We've seen a lot of that safety concern, and then, of course, getting the fob system up and going.
And the only other, from this discussion, would you like to, do you have time to look at improving why we're under all this construction? Is that something that you would like to do, that should be done? Frank, would you guys chime in?
I think that can be incorporated into that overall, work that Clark Patterson is doing. They're already looking at the campus, and part of, when we talked about adding that front entrance in, that concrete way, and kind of redeveloping that, we looked at it as bigger, of really looking at the entire campus. So there are areas, I agree, that the parking can be improved, the space can be better utilized, and I think, my thought is proceed with this, and then we can make adjustments as we go in the near term if we need to, and then as part of the bigger concept plan with Clark Patterson, they can find the bigger bang for the buck.
Make that motion.
Okay, we have a second? John? Okay, Call the question?
Just, can I just ask for one thing, and I have the concern that Supervisor Conover has, and I think it could be fixed, at least for now, very easily, and that is, don't designate that one parking lot as employee only. Leave it open so that the members of the public don't feel like they can't go in that parking lot, because that is the closest other parking lot to DMB. And if you just at least left that open, that would be, open parking, then at least they could park there.
Right now, it's employee-only parking.
Well, and I think you should remove that sign. That would be my only suggestion.
There are a lot of people from the public that use that parking lot besides the
Yeah,
employees.
there you do, so let's remove that sign and make that part of the
Okay.
motion,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I think that's...
Not to discuss it more, but I'll also work on a meeting, like a separate, board meeting sign with arrows that maybe would be separate, like when someone's coming looking for a meeting.
All right, anything else to come before the committee? Hearing none, motion to adjourn. Mark, second by Ron, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Jeff, can't we take that smoking and...
Smoking and signs.